Chinese characters for crisis are danger and opportunity. Everybody knows that. What hardly anyone knows is the Hebrew word for crisis, M-A-S-H-B-E-R, which means literally birth stool. You see, in ancient times, women didn't have delivery rooms, they had delivery stools. And on this stool, they would birth and generate new life. If there ever a time for the church to identify its crisis with a birth stool, with the need for creativity as a leadership art, it is now. There are only two things you can say for certain about the future. The expected won't happen, and the unexpected will happen. Everything is in motion. Everything is in flux. And the only way for you and your church to keep on a steady, even keel is through the gyroscope of creativity, this inner guidance system that keeps you stable and steady during these times of turbulent change. The kind of creativity Aquachurch talks about is, it says critical creativity. I think even more precisely might be creaturely creativity. See, we are called to continue God's creativity, not to go off on our own, but to continue God's story. God gave us the first commandment, tend the garden and till it. We are called to tend God's creation and till God's creation, to tend God's creativity and to till it, to conserve it and to continue it. You and I are partners with God in the continuing creativity of the Creator. Why is it that the church, the one place that is supposed to know and love and worship the Creator better than anybody else, is the least likely place anyone expects to find creativity? Why is it that this culture looks to the St. Peters, Peter Drucker, Peter Senge, Lawrence Peters, Tom Peters, and not Peter and Paul for the real insights for creativity? Why is it that we have not been able to communicate to this culture that Jesus was the most creative person that ever lived, that the best textbook for creativity on how to live in this new world is the Bible? Why is it? There is a fountain, my favorite camp meeting melody, a fountain, my favorite postmodern symbol. Like the Gospels, always the same, but always changing. Always in motion, but always at rest. Always going somewhere, but always going nowhere. There is a fountain, church. One of the most exhaustive studies of creativity took place a couple of years ago when researchers looked at 58 of the most original geniuses of all time. People as diverse as Einstein, Michelangelo, Mozart. And the question was asked, is there any common denominator to their creativity? What is it that makes them such a unique creative force? And the answer that came through was this. These were people who could juxtapose difference, who could bring together opposites, who could mix their metaphors. Paul was a master at mixing metaphors. The weight of glory, the levity of gravity. Jesus loved to mix metaphors. Can you bring together opposites in your congregation? If there's anyone that ought to understand the need to bring together these opposites, the fluid and the fixed, the natural and the mechanical, and to juxtapose the two to present the gospel afresh for this culture, it ought to be us. If we develop this leadership art of creativity.